Thanks very much. I see that the presentation is already being shared. So just a side note, this is the future of project management. At least it is what I think it might be. So bear in mind that this is basically my welcoming you to a discussion that I would like to have with people responsible for project management, and not only all the people who work with project managers, who are in development teams in IT companies or anywhere that the PM is present, because I would love to know people's opinion on what it might look like. Should it stay the same as it is right now, or should it evolve in some way? So that said, let me start with the agenda. So there's three parts of my presentation. The first thing will be the backstory, why I decided to talk today about this topic. Then second thing is the current state of things, and a little bit of basic facts about the PM's work in Monterail, because that's what I'm mostly focusing on. But I suppose that it's pretty close to what other software houses might have on board. And then the last thing is the what does the future hold, and yeah, my thinking and my yeah, well, my thoughts about what the PM might become in the nearest future. So let's start with the backstory. So first reason I wanted to have this presentation done and to talk to you today was that in 2021, I decided I wanted to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I am a project manager, because I was suffering from a major burnout, and I actually wanted to, get back on track. And to do that, I wanted to understand what is it that really gives value in my work to the teams and the people I work with. The second thing was I observed a shift in PM's responsibilities in our company. I saw last year that PMs have become more and more parts of the teams, not just people doing the management, the so-called management, but also taking on more and more responsibilities connected to the product ownership, being a scrum master, being a leader. So yeah, so it started to become different from what most people think about the project manager's responsibilities. And the third reason was that I have heard at least a couple of times during the sales process that clients or potential clients told us that they don't really need a project manager, because their thinking of this role was that a project manager is somebody who basically forwards emails, who is this person between the team and the client. And a lot of our clients have become more tech savvy, or agile savvy, and they actually want to incorporate our teams into their workflow and have this really tight cooperation. And somehow their thinking is that PMs are a person in between, is something, an obstacle in that cooperation, which in my opinion is obviously not true. But this is something that gave me a lot of thoughts about what we should do to actually change that thinking in clients' hats. So this is the backstory part, and now let's move on to the current state of things, and that means a little bit of facts. So if you want facts, obviously you go to the first place, the second place actually, because the first place I guess is Google, and the second place is Wikipedia. So I started my digging and my journey of understanding what the PM is actually from Wikipedia. And what I found is that basically an IT project manager is the same thing as project manager. At least that's what Wikipedia says. And the thing that really drew my attention was this part of the project manager's definition. And it says, as it says here, a project manager is a professional in the field of project management. Project managers have the responsibility of the planning, procurement, and execution of a project in any undertaking that has a defined scope, defined start, and a defined finish, regardless of industry. And what really drew my attention is this specific part, because if there are project managers listening here, I hope there are, you probably know this best, that when we talk about defined scope in IT industry, or defined start and defined finish, it's rarely that easy, because scope changes, requirements shift, focus shifts, business value shifts. There are pivotal changes in projects. The project rarely actually ends as in, like, thank you for cooperation, and that's basically it. Usually it just evolves into next phases after MVP. There's phase number 2, or different milestones. So it's continuous cooperation, and then even if you finish the development, you usually have a maintenance mode, a maintenance phase. So it's hard to say that something actually finishes or ends. And when it comes to defined start, this is more common, but still, when we talk about start, it's not only the kickoff date, it's also gathering all the information, getting accesses to repos, getting the right people. So the team composition, knowing the budget, the monthly budget, the client's flexibility, all this information that you have to have before you start. So that said, and continuing on the Wikipedia's definition, they talk a lot about managing. As you can see here, there's managing the project stakeholders, the communication, the project team, the project risks, the project schedule, the project budget, the conflict, the project delivery, all about management, manage, and all that. And it just seems to me that it's a little vague what we mean, or what Wikipedia means by managing, because it's just a, to me it sounds like a bucket of things that you do on a daily basis. So to understand my role and what I actually do when I say that I manage projects, I started writing down all the things that PMs do on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, whatever. And I counted, as it says here, around 45 different tasks. Well, there might be some doubles, but definitely over 40 tasks that we perform every day. Not all of them, of course, every day, but random tasks out of these 45 are performed every day. And when you think about those 45 different tasks, there's different things. Like sometimes it can be a big thing, like establishing and confirming initial project budget, right? Then you have to communicate with the client, confirm. Then you have to confirm with the Monterail operations team, make sure that we have the right people in the right budget, that they will be available on time to deliver and to start working. Then there are things continuing on that operations team. As you can see here, cooperate with our operations managers. As I said, development team size, timeline, FTEs, all that things. There are smaller things, things that you don't really write in a job offer for a project manager, right? Take meeting notes, but it's a huge part of what we do, documenting what was discussed, what the outcome of discussion was, just making sure that the team, the client, everyone involved has access to those notes, that they are updated, that we can have a reference point for our future needs. There's stuff like backlog management assistance, marking the priorities, helping the client to decide what should be done in the next sprint, the next week, next month, whatever your phases are, whatever your workflow or your method of delivering is. there's this tight cooperation with the team and the client for outlining next steps, delegating research, making sure that the spike topics are properly handled, engaging the client in this scope management work, educating the client about the meaning of backlog, of refinements, of plannings, and so on and so on. And sorry, yeah. And then there's things like teams perspective tasks, just making sure that that the team's well-being is properly monitored, that you organize retrospectives to talk about problems in teams, that you basically lead team integrations, that you guys cooperate together. This is all project managers' responsibilities. And there's also one more thing that I outlined here, estimating new parts of the software, because here in Monterail, project managers also take part in estimating, in helping business analysts and the development team to prioritize, to create the scope, to understand the scope, to cut it or split it into tasks. So there's a lot of work that we do on different fields. So so if you look at the development cycle of a typical project, and you have this pre-kickoff phase, then the MVP, which is included in the development phase, and then supposedly you have the maintenance part, or continuous development, whatever it is. The PM is basically involved in all of these phases. With different tasks, with different type of involvement. Sometimes it's more hours, sometimes it's less hours, but basically those 45 tasks are continuously done, and they can randomly pop up in a different day. So if I have to split those tasks and responsibilities into 3 different key areas of expertise, then in my opinion, this is what it looks like right now. The biggest part of our work is this classic, whatever it is, classic project management. What I mean by that is maintaining budget, looking at the timeline, reporting about progress, the meetings, the planning sessions, making sure that everybody knows what to do, that we're basically going in the right direction. But we also perform things from the product ownership part, which what I mentioned was, for example, the backlog updates, the backlog management, helping the clients to understand the priorities and how to create a proper roadmap, how to update it, and so on. Plus, working with the BA and the team on new features, new estimates, and then we also have this part of leadership, Scrum Master. I know that not everybody uses Scrum, so that's why I basically split it into leadership / Scrum Master, because this is all the tasks that basically help us perform as a team. This is the work of a PM done to basically know the strengths and the weaknesses of every team member, to basically know that the team is going more and more into this self-organizing way of doing things. But but if I were to say what it looks like currently, of course this is a bit of a generalization, but well, for the sake of this presentation, this is what it typically looks like in the PM's world. So 3 different areas, but mostly focusing on the classical project management. So if you think that about the fact that that the average number of projects per project manager in Monterail is around 4, and you also know that we have those 3 areas of expertise, and you also know that there's 45 or 40 different tasks being done daily in those 3 areas, then the word that might pop up is multitasking, or should I say context switching. And context switching is very energy consuming, and basically it means that it's a killer of efficiency and focus, because if you jump from a meeting to meeting, from a thing to thing, you have to constantly reset your mind to think about a new topic. Does this mean that the PMs are ineffective or not focused? Of course not. What I mean is that whoever wants to be a project manager has to be this specialist in jumping between topics and still maintaining focus in every meeting, or every conversation they have, or every task they perform, which is very hard. So but by doing that, by taking a lot of this this meeting time and a lot of this context switching pressure on themselves, they allow the rest of the team to actually focus for a long time on the product development, right? Whether engineers, designers, QAs, they need those long periods of time to perform their tasks. So we as a PM, we take that context switching more on us to allow people to spend their precious time on development work, on product development. On a side note, there's a really good book about deep work. I highly recommend it because it actually talks about this focused work and spending your focused time on performing tasks. So I recommend it because it's basically something that also inspired me to think about the PM's role in the future. And yeah, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe, because I've looked into the Google Calendar of some of the PMs in our company, and I've seen things like 10 meetings, 11 meetings, 12 meetings, and so on. I could keep counting, I think up to around 14 or 15 a day in some extreme situations. This only proves my point that currently the PM takes a lot of those client team meetings, anything that might just split time, and it's really exhausting to handle all of that. So whoever is out there listening to me being a PM, I know what you feel on a daily basis. So if I were to summarize what the people in Monterail, what the project managers in Monterail actually do right now, it's basically making sure everyone understands the scope and priorities, removing obstacles to ensure deep focus time for the development team, establishing and maintaining a healthy partnership with our clients through communication and delivery, and leading the team and the project in the right direction. This is the current state of affairs. Now, what does the future hold? And this is where where we land on the article that I've read that actually, as I said, inspired me to talk about this. How Big Tech Runs Tech Projects in the Curious Absence of Scrum by this gentleman. And it's super interesting because he basically asked the biggest tech companies of the world who usually typically leads engineering projects, and it turned out that it's usually a tech lead or an engineer who is appointed or self-appointed as a team leader or a project lead, because they do not have a project manager. Now, of course, these are not companies that are software houses. They have their own products. So obviously a project manager might not be the best idea to have there, but their argumentation is basically that there are no dedicated project managers for team level projects. There are, although, technical program managers, and these are the people that connect different teams when there are really complex projects throughout the company. So what it usually looks like is that we have the product managers in those companies, but not project managers. They basically said that tech leads or the project leads, the engineers, can handle the project management themselves with the help of the team, which is interesting because we have those product managers, and these are the people deeply rooted in the business side of the product. Obviously, they work on the business side, the data science, the design. They handle the roadmaps, they create the plans, prioritize work, and as it says here, escalate where needed. And then the team is self-organizing, is fully independent, and the team decides with the help of the tech lead and the lead engineer how they are going to perform their work, how they are going to solve the problems. So this is what it usually looks like in those huge companies, that you have a team with an engineer who is a project lead or a tech lead, other engineers, other people on the team. I suppose there's also testers, designers, whoever is needed, and then you have a second team and the third team, and they basically communicate with each other. And the team number 2, team number 3 also have their appointed project lead. And when you have really complex projects, as I mentioned before, you have this program manager who connects all of these different teams together, working on some huge projects. Now, of course, as I said, these are companies that have their own products. Sometimes they have hundreds of products, like Amazon or Google. So obviously, this is not this could not be copied literally to our workflow. But the question here is, does that mean that those companies, those huge companies, will basically influence all of the others to get rid of project managers, and those will soon be redundant in IT? I don't think so, because there are two situations, and this is also said in this article, that will require, and the article talks about Scrum, but I would go further and I would say that these two situations actually require the project manager. First of all, this is the kitchen sink teams, and kitchen sink teams are basically, when you think about kitchen sink, it's basically a place that you could put all the things that you have, some dirty plates and stuff like that, right? So this is obviously a joke here, but it works. It's a good comparison, because in software houses, teams often have no idea what will come next. Some requirement changes, some new features, as I said, pivotal changes in the project, and so on. So they are constantly, waiting for new bugs that the client might mention or whatever, right? And then the second thing is the forming and storming stages of new teams, because we in Monterail do not have stable teams that that stick together for new projects to come. But with every new project, we have a new team forming. There are pluses, there are minuses to this situation, but whatever the approach, there is this forming and storming phase of a new team, and this is where the project manager comes in the future, in my opinion, at least, because the first situation needs strong product ownership, saying, no, we cannot do this because it's not the priority, and about this, and it brings no business value. This could wait. Let us think, is this new requirement coming from the fact that we got some user feedback, or is this just some idea that just popped up? So assistance to the client with thinking about the product, the new ways of developing the product, of improving the product, and so on. And then the second thing is the leadership part, which I think is going to be huge when it comes to the needs of future teams, because you need somebody on the team that will tell the team what to do now in the next sprint, or in a crisis situation, how to solve some issues, how to keep our our heads keep our eyes on the ball, and so on. So product ownership and leadership will be, in my opinion, the biggest part of project managers' work. So if I come back to these three areas and what it looks like right now, as I said, project management being the biggest part, the typical, right? Maintaining the budget sheets and just communicating with the client and the team, and making sure that we're delivering on time, and so on. I think it will move it will move to this way, that the product ownership and the leadership will become bigger. Leadership becoming the key element of project managers work, just pointing the direction, making sure that the team's well-being is on point, that everybody knows what to do, that we're motivated, that we have all the skills we need, and so on and so on. Then helping the client and the team to understand the scope, to cut it down, to basically understand what's supposed to be done and what the product vision is. The project management part will stay, but it will become smaller, as I think that will basically be the needs of the new teams in the future. And so if I come back to this project cycle, I think that there's need to have this project manager plus the project lead working together, and gradually having project manager step down, back off slowly, letting the project lead and the team to self-organize, because this is basically the idea of all today's IT development teams. And I think to sum up my presentation, I think that project manager will be less and less about those typical responsibilities, and more about asking a question at the beginning of of every project, and then regularly asking that question to the team. And that question would be, how can I help you? And listening to the needs of a team, and allowing them to take more and more responsibilities on themselves and be responsible for the outcomes, or for the delivery, becoming more independent, because that's the agile way, and that's what I believe should be the future of project management. And that said, thank you very much for listening,